It is now recording.
Right.
Okay. So, you said that you were feeling a bit rough today, eh? Because you've had a busy weekend, right?
Well, it's been very quiet on the lawn, which has been nice. The weekends during the school holidays, we're quite busy, which is also good because we're talking to lots of people. But now they're very quiet. No, I've just the media has been ramping up, and so there's more energy required to talk, give interviews, whatever. And this weekend, it was the Alternative Aotearoa conference where I decided to go to and gave this sort of quite impassioned 5-minute speech. When I checked my Fitbit, my pulse had gone up to the highest it's been in the record. It was 130 or something. It's like I'm exposing myself, putting myself out there at a time when I'm probably more vulnerable. Yeah. And today I had a TV interview. It's online TV, New Zealand Public TV they call themselves, with Brian Bruce. Yeah. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And how are you feeling just in general at this stage? Because you've been hunger striking for almost 2 weeks now, haven't you?
Yeah, this is my 14th day, so tomorrow morning it'll be 2 weeks. I'm feeling really good and positive, and probably feeling better than I was a few days ago. Yeah, just right at this moment. As the day goes on, I get a bit more worn out. And just at the moment, I'm feeling like a little bit what I call frazzled. Yeah, wanting probably just quiet time with a blanket over my head or something. But I'm very happy to be talking to you at the moment. It's fine.
Well, that's nice. That's good. How has how have the media been this week? Because you said that it's been there's been more media attention this week, and how do people tend to put a slant on it or anything in particular? What kind of questions do they tend to ask?
The media so far has been universally positive and supportive, yeah, which is fantastic. I think that like some of it's been printed stuff, and so I've worked, like I did with Matthias, worked with what he was writing, and then it went out there, and they changed it a bit. I noticed the spin-off changed it a bit, but I think they were changing it from their understanding of the science so that it was more sort of had more authority behind it. Yeah. The radio interviews, they've both been very positive. Like the first one was Plains FM, so it was for a climate change slot on the community radio in Christchurch, Plains FM, and it's called It's Getting Hot in Here. It's focused on the climate, and then the other one was Urban Māori Radio. Claudia, I think her name was. My mouth is getting dry. Yeah. She was very supportive. Yeah.
And I'm just trying to think of what else would be useful, especially for getting on something that involves both the recording and the camera. Do you think you can? I know we've talked about this before, but do you think you can give a description of what you're doing and why you're here?
Why am I here? Yeah, good question. I think that I'd like to talk about maybe a bit more than what we talked about before. Yeah, sort of like the bigger picture for me is growing up in a very challenging atmosphere of like being given lots of beliefs that I was meant to believe, which we did talk about, and then sort of working through that myself and deconstructing it all, and so thinking for myself, which I'm very proud of. Also part of that was waking up to, this is back in the 80s, so I think the 70s and 80s probably, there was a very strong concern around nuclear war. People were very worried about nuclear war, and I joined in with that. And I think, in fact, that worry is still with us, but it's just we've forgotten to talk about it. And then I was also I connected as a child with, we grew up next to Lake Rotorua, and with all the trauma that was happening in my childhood, the lake was like, held me, just like the sound of waves lapping on the shore, or exploring as a kid in the shallows looking for cockabillies, and swimming in the lake, and then eventually building rafts on the lake, building huts by the lake, sailing on the lake. It nourished me a lot. So I had a real love of nature and the world in a way that that was really important. And so I started to become concerned in my early 20s. I somehow found out about climate change and became very concerned about it. And I've spent the last 30 years being concerned and not really doing much apart from choosing to live simply myself. And I felt bad about that, And that sort of all came to a head at the beginning of last year, where I went on a Buddhist gathering called the Dharma Gathering at Staveley in Canterbury. And I didn't know in advance, but they made the entire theme of the whole gathering climate change. And that's where I first heard about Extinction Rebellion, at that gathering. With Julie Downer was there, and Sean Weaver, who's been a close friend of mine for 25 years. And Sean's got his own company called Ecos, which is about saving forests and doing more planting, particularly native planting. And he's also branched out into analysing companies, in particular their carbon footprint, and working with them how they can reduce it. So Sean has been very concerned about climate change, and this is his answer: to go into business and do something in business. So he gave this sort of stirring speech there about we all needed to add 3 zeros to whatever projects we're thinking of. We needed to add 3 zeros to our project, and that just sent me into the spiral of that whole thing of all these years I've known about this and dreamed about doing something, and I haven't done anything. And adding 3 zeros, I'm just a simple sort of handyman gardener. I can't add 3 zeros to anything, And I just went into this spiral of like a depressed or despair. And out of that, I decided to join up with Extinction Rebellion, and got really enthusiastic about doing actions. This is what I dreamed about. I dreamed about camping out near the Solid Energy head office back before the Occupy movement started camping out in places. To challenge Solid Energy. I don't think Solid Energy exists anymore, but back then they were the government company, which was about digging coal out of the ground. So got involved with Extinction Rebellion, and then the hunger strike idea came along. So in a way, this action now is me answering Sean's call to add 3 zeros. This is my 3 zeros, just going for broke. And there was a big shift for me in the middle of lockdown, where, again, I have struggled with this blanketed despair, I've called it. But, I've had issues with anxiety and depression that I've done a lot of work on, a lot of self-care, a lot of therapy, a lot of meditation, which is all good and helped. But it sort of kept coming back. And I had all this vision when lockdown started, saying, yahoo, a month at home, we're going to get on with all the unfinished jobs and work in the garden. And but in fact, the first 2 weeks of lockdown was like all my demons came out on overdrive. And then right in the middle of lockdown, we had a Zen. There was a Zen retreat meant to be for Easter weekend, which couldn't happen, obviously. So we had an online retreat. And that was a real shift for me. And then out of that online retreat, they started doing a regular meditation every weekday morning. So I started joining them for that. So the background of this is that I'm a Zen Buddhist and a Quaker. But I'm sort of lapsed in both in a way. Like I wasn't practicing anymore. So this got me back into sitting on my cushion every morning. It just gave that little bit of structure and backbone that I've just carried on because I had the support of other people doing it. I thought, okay, well, I'm going to join in, and so you have a reason to get up and do it. So that's sort of, it's led to this feeling of some sort of breakthrough, and touch wood, and it's actually happening. And it could all revert back to the way it was previously, but a breakthrough of being true to myself, a breakthrough of living with more abandon, and that idea that had come up in middle of 2019 about a hunger striking came back again, like that lockdown was ending. I thought, wow, we did all that for COVID, why aren't we doing that for the climate? And I started thinking again about hunger striking, and I looked at the dates and worked out, and I thought, oh, it's got to be the winter school holidays, because school holidays is when my partner has some time off work because she's a kindergarten teacher. So I remember there's this real point where I looked up Ollie Language on Facebook and thought, right, I'm going to send him a message because I want to follow in his footsteps and do this, honouring his mahi and adding my bit to it. And there was this point where I was about to send that message. I thought, okay, am I doing this or am I not? It's like leaping off the side of a cliff. Am I going to hunger strike? And then I hit send, and it's living with abandon. Here I am doing it, and it is. Gosh, it's wonderful. All these people gathering around and supporting me. It's huge. Like Kieran, yourself, Tim. Yeah, and it's an attitude of just let it be what it is. I'm doing my best. Just let it be what it is, and what it is turning into is pretty damn exciting, I think.
And I do have quite a specific question regarding the garment that you're wearing, because I've noticed that you is this one that you have tended to wear quite a bit while you've been here? Because I think I've seen it before, or are there other ones that are like it? Is there a particular story to this? Did you make it specifically for this situation?
Yeah, there is a story to it. I might stand up so you can see the back as well. Yeah. So. Yeah. Says on the front, our house is on fire, our children are inside. Yeah. And then all of us together. It too. I think it says stand for the future, but yeah. There is a second one of these, which is Tim's one, which he's not wearing lately, which is fine.
Yeah, highlights and lowlights.
Can't really think of lowlights exactly. It's just all it's all been good. I mean, apart from the occasional, like I'm struggling slightly at the moment, feeling like I'm getting a bit wrung out. It's not always easy, but actually it's been relatively quite easy. Yeah. Yeah. Highlights. I think the brain slows down when you haven't eaten for 2 weeks. Just every day here in front of Parliament, having Tim by my side, it's like I'm hugely grateful for Tim. Yeah. Getting to know Tim a lot better. Yeah. Like even in the planning, finding out that the Catholic Church was going to give us somewhere to stay at White House. There was definitely, I think I have to go back to before I came here for the lowlights and highlights. There was a period in that final week of planning where I was getting into sort of quite a dark space at one point because I was getting all these dreadful warnings about the risks to my health and, doctors saying, no way should you do this. And then just as that was sort of reaching its peak and I was feeling this heavy weight of it all, I got the news that the Catholic Church was offering us White House. Now, getting here and arriving at. Yep.
What are you looking forward to afterwards?
I'm looking forward to getting home to Julie and Hannah. I'm looking forward to eating again. I have started to think about that a little bit and look forward to that. Yeah. Yeah, and maybe getting out of the limelight. That would be great. Yeah. I mean, I accept the limelight because it's necessary. That's the whole point of what we're doing, because we want to spread the message. So I need to make the most of it. But then having a time where I've handed that baton over to someone else and have a break, that would be great. Yeah.
And what would be other ones? Oh, I thought of. I did have a query about. Did you have any particular inspirations when it comes to people who have done hunger striking for their own causes in history? You mentioned someone named Ollie, for example. Was there anyone else as well?
Yeah, Ollie Langridge, of course, didn't hunger strike, but he stood here for 100 days, and that's an inspiration. I did peace studies at Canterbury University and learnt about Mahatma Gandhi, so I did look up his hunger striking, and interestingly he struck for no longer than, he did it multiple times, and the longest he did it several times, was 3 weeks. But I'm not trying to be Mahatma Gandhi. I'm just trying to be David Goldsmith. Not particularly sort of trying to look to anyone, to emulate anyone, actually, just trying to be true to myself, like I said before, and do that with abandon.
Okay. What else? I'm trying to think of questions that I've come up with over the week, see if they come back into my brain. Yeah. Can you think of anything off the top of your head that would be a bonus?
I didn't finish talking about, what was it, the highlights and lowlights.
Oh yeah, would you like to talk about the highlights and lowlights a little further?
Yeah, I was just talking about, before I came here, there was a low light when all that medical stuff started to feel very dark. And then the highlight was hearing about Viard House from Susan Apathy, letting me know that it was that option. And that was a big yes, and really lifted me. It was a big thing falling in place. And then arriving here and finding the accommodation is just over the road from the lawn, just up those steps and across the road. And it's perfect. Imagining in my head what would be the perfect sort of accommodation for me to do this. It's this lovely room with an ensuite. That's exactly what I've got. Yeah. So thank you to Father David Dowling and Cardinal John Jew, for looking after us there.
Excellent. That's good. Yeah, I'm glad they're taking care of you. And other stuff. Sure. Okay then.
Yeah, thank you.
Shall I keep it as one recording? Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Okay. Would you like to chat with us a little bit, Tim? We've snuck up on you. It's always a possibility. So, I guess it would be good to cover the basics. So, what role are you playing here, and what inspires you to be here?
I'm here to make sure David's okay and to keep an eye on him to make sure he's not pushing himself too far, and reminding him not to use up too much energy too quickly.
And I recall that you did was it a 4-day kind of support strike with him?
Yep. I did 4 days because I've never done a hunger strike before, and I was wondering what it would be like, and maybe I'm considering doing a longer one later on, and I wanted to know what that might be like. I wanted to know what David and Robin were in for. I almost forgot Robin's name, that's terrible. And for me, it wasn't bad. I didn't really notice any effects at all. and I think I just got really lucky. I think if I'd stretched it another couple of days, I would have noticed something terrible.
Do I recall correctly that you survived on tea and barley sugars? Do you think that your appreciation of tea and barley sugars has grown or decreased because of that experience?
My appreciation of tea has increased because I'm not a tea drinker, and it saved me some headaches, so I'm very grateful to tea. And barley sugars I'm not impressed with because they're not the same as they used to be. They used to be chewy in the middle, and they're not anymore. And they also come individually wrapped in little plastic bags, which I'm not so keen on.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I remember liking barley sugars. It's too bad to hear they've changed. And what kind of organisations are you involved with? Who do you work with in general?
XR in general. Let's see. When XR started up, I had only just joined 350, maybe 2 weeks prior, and then we heard about XR and we thought, yes, that's a really good idea. We want to do that. So XR and Otatahi sprang out of 350 and the anti-TPP group down there as well. So now all three groups still exist, and XR and Otatahi is really very active and strong, which we're happy about.
That's excellent. And sorry, but I will need to go now. So I think that's all for the recording. Thank you, Tim.